How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday. Let me make sure I pop up on my phone. Whew, man, I'm tired today. Let's see what my chat's looking like. That's me. That's me with the welcome. I highlight me. Welcome, everyone. I know it's Thursday, so I'm just putting my grind in. So I'll just start, and when they fall in, they'll fall in. Let me see. Waiting for my. Let's see my live stream. Okay. I'll just start, and when they fall in, there it is. So just want to make sure I showed up. How's everyone doing? You know how we do it. Just put in the cybersecurity questions. I need a new phone. I don't know what my phone's doing. Put any security questions in the box. It might be the Thursday where everybody check out the replay, but we're gonna go ahead and put in the work. Once again, happy Thursday. Just gonna go over AWS. They've been getting hacked. The AWS been getting people in trouble, right? So they got some new services. They had a few problems. Of course, one thing I like about them though, they get them corrected pretty quick. So we're gonna get started here in a quick sec. Let's see, what's my stream? Stream health looking pretty good. It's not currently okay. It's good. That should be very good though. Once again, you know how we do it. Put any questions straight in the box. I want to welcome and, like I said, I'll drop the link if you want to come up. You can come up. Um, I was not familiar with AWS Glue. Uh, what's up, Princess A? How are you doing? Glad you could make it. About to get started. I'm struggle streaming today, more with my energy than the actual stream, but we'll get on it. Once again, if you got any questions, cybersecurity, just drop them in the box and we can roll. So, start. Let's get started. AWS Glue. So, I had to figure out what is AWS Glue. AWS Glue is a serverless data integration service. Makes it easier to discover, prepare, and combine data for analytics, machine learning, and application development. I think it's kind of big data-ish, data scientists type taking data, making it easier to digest and report on. AWS Glue provides all the capability needed for data integration so that you can start analyzing your data and putting in use in minutes instead of months. Data integration is the process of preparing, combining data for analytics, machine learning, application development. It involves multiple tasks such as discovery, extracting data from various sources, enriching, cleaning, normalizing, and combining data, loading organized data in databases, data warehouses, and data lakes. These tasks are often handled different types of users for each use of different product, right? So it'll make it easier. That's why a lot of small to mid-sized companies were using it. They don't have all that infrastructure stood up, but AWS Glue had a problem. So if you look on the AWS website, you usually get it in the S3 bucket. Data is loaded into S3 bucket. Cup comes underneath and starts activating and making data available. All right. So let me know if I keep spinning. It seems like it paused a little bit. But once again, once you drop the data on the S3 bucket, AWS Lambda come up underneath it. Use the AWS ETL tools, right? AWS catalogs tells you how you're describing the data. Then you can put it in Amazon Redshift or the S3 bucket, or you can put it in the Oracle database, right? AWS Glue just gives you a lot of products to make that easier to use. This welcome Princess A, the casual economist. What's up? the geek surgeon. Peace to the tech and developer guys. What are we doing? AWS. AWS is getting us hacked today. That's what we're doing. The geek surgeon. We're just gonna talk about it a little bit. AWS is getting us in trouble, right? So the glue rail is just ETL tools, make it easier, right? Gives you a lot of features. We're gonna use some of that, on our not this Sunday, but we're gonna start live in our AWS Sunday class. We're gonna start using some of these tools. So we want to talk about how these tools are getting people in trouble, right? So this is the AWS Super Glue vulnerability. It was discovered by Orca Security. When I say that, it makes me think of the vegetable. So let's see how AWS Glue is getting people in trouble, right? Okay, that looks big enough to read. I just want to make sure. So at the top, we got the AWS attacker account. What's in blue is the AWS Glue Service account. That's underneath. That's what AWS controls, right? In the AWS target account, right? So this is AWS Super Glue vulnerability attack flow, right? So how is AWS getting us hacked, right, and getting us in trouble? So we're just going to kind of walk through that scenario. It's quite common. It happens on-prem, in the cloud. That's what it is. I'm studying for the Azure Data Engineering. Oh, that's a good cert to have. Azure, I really put them on A and B. I think AWS, because it got a 15-year head start, is a little in front of AWS. I mean, it's a little in front of Azure, but I do a lot of Azure work too. I do a lot of security reviews, and a lot of vendors are using the Azure cloud. It's got a lot of good stuff. I'm surprised it runs a ton of Linux very well in the Azure cloud. But so let's talk about, so the AWS attacker account gets a glue resource. That resource has a role, right? So that attacker role escalates. So originally it was just like a regular user or weak role or some kind of supervisor role for regular work. But then you can escalate your role up to an admin role. Once you do that in AWS Glue Service, you can go to another account, right, and switch your AM Glue role to another AWS service role and pretty much give you root or control of the whole box, right? So that's escalation privilege caused by AWS Glue, right? That's the flow chart. We'll read into it and we're looking at a few more examples, but AWS then lock down, they're called privilege boundaries in AWS. So in the middle, it goes from a weak role to an admin role, meaning it can pretty much do anything on that box, right? Now we're leaking PII, personal identifier information. If we're HIPAA, our health data is compromised. I do a lot of IRS work in the IRS tax season. That's compromised, right? So now we're in trouble, right? So let's read how AWS is getting us trouble. And later on, we'll talk about if AWS got us hacked, what is our next move, right? That's what the thumbnail is. Who do we report to? What should we do? How we should do it, right? That's what we're going to talk about today. So why is AWS getting us in trouble? All right. Two is, let's be real. They didn't do that on purpose, right? They get vulnerabilities too. Shout out to Trash Can Waves, putting in good work. Like I said, I was checking out Cummins' videos. Go subscribe to him. Let's keep going. So we're going to hit this one more time. The attacker gets the glue resource. It has a weak role. It privilege escalates itself up to an admin role. Once you get to an admin role, you can go to an AWS target account and change your role from a glue role to any other role. You can make yourself in charge of the database, the web server, the app server, or all of the above, right? That privilege escalation is what's getting us in trouble, all right? So let's talk about it. Princess A in the house with the eyes. Shout out to Snuggles, my favorite. I don't even know if I would call Snuggles a troll anymore. She's just out there looking and acting like she's gonna come up on panels and asking very probing questions. so shout out to Snuggles. Breeze to the brush. Appreciate it. Let's keep going. So the Amazon web server addresses the glue security issues that allow attackers to access and alter data link to other AWS customer accounts. AWS Glue is serverless cloud data integration service that helps discover, prepare, combine data from app develop machine learning analyticals. That's why it's the glue, right? It's going to glue all that together, right? Going to save us from all the programming, right? But currently, right now, glue is leaking our data out, right? The flaw stem from an exploitation AWS Glue feature and an internal service API misconfiguration that allow Orca Security researchers to escalate their privilege to gain access to all service resources in that region, right? So if you get all the service resource that region, we're done. Go home. They stole all our data, right? We suck. It's over, right? Um, Bell piece to the chat. I'm doing all right, Adrian. Just a little tired, but I can't complain. I'm going to come up the panel, but every time I come up, you always leave. So maybe next time I'm gonna stay extra. I'm a professor. I'm gonna stay extra long after class to see if Snuggles will come up. Shout out to Snuggles. So let's read this one more time. The flaw stemmed from an exploitation AWS Glue feature and internal service API misconfigured that allow Orca Security researchers to escalate privilege to gain access to all the service resources in the region, right? So once I escalate, I have access to all the services in your region, right? So I'm toast, right? So it's over with. So let's see what Orca was adding to it. They say during our research, we were able to identify features in AWS Glue that could exploit to obtain credentials to a role within the AWS service's own account, which provide us full access to the internal service API, right? So full access to the internal service API, meaning you can do anything you want, right? In that user, you're done, right? In combination with the misconfiguration in the Glue internal service API, we were able to further escalate privileges within the account to point where we had unrestricted access to our resources for the service in the region, including full administrative privilege. Well, I'm scared to read that again, right? Full administrative privilege, right? Meaning we're toast, right? It's over. The research added their findings were uncovered using Orca Security on AWS account that they didn't have access information. They belonged to other AWS customers doing their research. So they're basically saying they're using their own account to test it in. It was successful, I read the whole article. They send it to AWS, and AWS basically said, "Yep." So once again, right, they took the resources, did privilege escalation in the middle. They had admin role. Really, it sounds like they had something bigger than admin role, right? Because it's beyond the Glue service, right? Then they went from the IAM Glue role, and like they said in the statement, they had administrative privilege to everything in that region for that user, right? Which it's over with. So, while investigating vulnerabilities, the researchers assumed roles trusted by the Glue service. They also were able to query and alter Glue service-related resources in a region, including but not limited to metadata for Glue jobs, developer endpoints, workflows, crawlers, and triggers. The AWS Glue Service team reproduced and confirmed the flaw within hours after receiving Orca Security report and partially mitigated the issue globally by the following morning. They deployed full mitigation for the superglue vulnerability in just a few days, preventing potential attackers from accessing AWS Glue customers' data. Right, but I'm sure that was out in the wild. I'm sure people were looking at people's data and taking advantage of it. So shout out to Orca, and still give a shout out to AWS. They closed that hole pretty quick, but in federal level, I probably would have to report that if we were using Glue, right? Or I would at least have to look in the logs to figure out if I could see if any of our customer data was being viewed by Glue. But the problem is you had administrative access to all the services, so I might be able to delete the logs that were supposed to be checking Glue, right? So that's one of the other weird things you would have to figure it out. But we're going to talk about that later. what would I do in that scenario, and how I would report that to different clients, right? The AWS security team also patched the second vulnerability found by the Orca Security and cloud formation. According to the researchers, XML external entity file led to file and credentials disclosures of external AWS infrastructure services. Our research team believes given data found on a host, including credentials, data involving internal endpoints, that an attacker could abuse the vulnerability to bypass tenant boundaries, giving them privileged access to any resource in AWS. Right. So shout out to Orca. I hope they got a big bounty for both of those. I'm talking. From my point, I think they at least should get 50K for each one of those findings, because those are huge findings. Those are almost 10. I think for me, both of those are 10. Usually you get 10 from a big company. They give you 20, 30. I've seen Microsoft give $50,000 of bounty. I think those are both worthy of $50,000 bounties. Of course, it's not my money, so it's easy for me to say, give them 50K, right? So there was another hole in AWS Lambda. Lambda is basically the serverless part of that, where they're spinning up servers underneath. They control them and you control them, right? So let's get into those. This is going to be super quick though. So another company. So what is Lambda? A Lambda is an event-driven serverless compute service with permits the execution of code written in different programming languages and automate actions inside the cloud environment. One of the main benefits of this approach is that Lambda runs our code in a highly available compute infrastructure directly managed by AWS. But being directly managed by AWS may maybe not be such a good thing these days, right? The cloud providers takes care of all the administrative activities related to the infrastructure underneath, including servers, operating systems, maintenance, automatic scaling, patching, and logging. The user can just use the service implementing their code and the function is ready to go, right? So if you run Java, Python, C Sharp, it's called a programming function. When your when your code gets executed, the server just spins up underneath it, right? It's not serverless. It just means you don't control the server, right? So it'll spin up Apache, Tomcat, IIS, whatever you need for that programming function. It'll spin that server up underneath, run your code, and once it's done and idle for a while, the server will go away, right? So the only time you pay for it is when it's running your code. As soon as it's done running your code, it's going to decouple, and you don't, right? You save your money. It's not running for it. So it's because serverless is becoming mainstream in business. I've never run serverless because, from a security perspective and compliance perspective, I'm quite not sold on serverless. So I've been doing a lot of AWS to get more comfortable with serverless. So, and we'll see that, coming more on my channel, getting the serverless done. Scalability, performance, and cost efficiency. Without managing the underlying infrastructure, workloads are able to scale thousands of current requests per second. One of the most used serverless functions in the cloud is the AWS Lambda. One essential element of production raising an application is security. An error in the code or lack of user input validation may cause the function to be compromised and can lead the attacker to get access to your cloud account, like we just talked about in the first level attack. What's your thought on Fortinet as far as a product or security or where it sits at in the market, AO? Give me a little more on that. What you want me? It's a known product. It's I don't think it's the top. It's in the middle. I've never used it, but I know a lot of medium-sized companies to use it. I've never really done a security review on it, so that's kind of high level, just right off the bat. What I think of sits on the market. I think it's mid tier. It's middle of the pack from what I've seen. But two is I do a lot of government federal work, right? So they move a little different, right? So that's my I think. Oh yeah, Palo Alto's better. At the top, of course, especially you getting in networking gear and that type of gear, you got Cisco at the mountain, right? I don't know if Cisco's the best. They getting big and lazy, but Cisco's definitely the 800-pound gorilla in that market and how they run it. But yeah, from those two, yeah, I would go with Palo Alto much. I feel much better using Palo Alto, especially from a security perspective. So we were talking about AWS Glue, which uses Lambda, right, which is the serverless underneath. There's another company found some vulnerabilities on Lambda. So let's just hit those real quick. In this attack scenario, the attacker found a misconfigured S3 bucket, which happens all the time. The bucket is open to the public where there are different files owned by the company. The attacker is able to upload a file into the bucket, check the file configurations once uploaded. A Lambda function is being used to calculate the tags for each file upload. Although the attacker does not know anything about the code implemented in the Lambda, the file he put in, it can check the file tags and see the tags have been added automatically. Once the attacker can start the enumeration process to attach the tags, it uses that function to do privilege escalation, right? When we were looking about that, when we were talking about the AWS Glue, remember in the middle it did privilege escalation. So when he drops that file in the S3 bucket, he's doing privilege escalation similar to what we looked at, meaning with what? He went from a regular user to admin and he's controlling the box, right? So once again, that Lambda function, we got to make sure we're locking it down and doing validation to make sure nobody's putting something up there and tricking our server when it automatically boots up and checks our data we put in our S3 bucket, right? So here's another one, which is always common. Valid credentials obtained via phishing, right? Somebody clicks on an email or goes to a fake email, fake website and put their username and password in, right? It gathers information regarding policies and rules. Once again, it lists the Lambda functions to get more info, right? Remember, Lambda's the server that AWS controls. So it says the same attack scenario proposed before, where the attacker found a misconfigured bucket in S3. In this case, the attacker accessed the cloud environment by stealing credentials via phishing. It uses the compromise, has read-only access in the account. The attacker can merge the info obtained from the code implemented from the Lambda function due to the read-only access to better attack, with no input validation applied to the file name in order to sanitize the name. Now we better understands why the affirmation attack was successful, right? So once again, you put the file up there, you didn't validate what the file is. So once again, it did that privilege escalation and took took all our data from our secure AWS. What's up, Sheed? Glad you came. Shout out. I'm glad you came up to the panel last time too. I appreciate that, man. That was great information. So once again, we just talking about privilege escalation. Sometimes when you give AWS too much control, right, you can end up in the news, right? So we're trying to figure out what that balance is, right? And when it comes up, we got a few things to help you not let AWS get you in trouble, right? So what do we do? How do we mitigate the attack vectors, right? Disable all public access for S3 buckets, right? S3 buckets really your disk and where you put data at, right? None of that stuff should be accessible to the internet, right? People go straight from the internet and start stealing your stuff because it's misconfigured, right? So anything on an S3 bucket, they got to log in. They got to go through some layers in our environment, right? We want to check to make sure you're not coming from a malicious IP. We want to do geotagging. We'll make sure you're not coming from a foreign country, right? Before we let you into our S3 bucket, right? But not coming from the public, straight from the internet, right? You got to go through a couple of layers of security. Check the code used inside the Lambda function to be sure there aren't any security bugs inside it, and all the user inputs are correctly sanitized following the security guidelines for writing secure code, right? So how do you do that? How do you check it, right? Pair programming. There actually is a service for the web application firewall. It makes sure that your input is using validated from a security guideline. So there's a special service for that. So we want to make sure we're using those services. And once again, not putting our stuff directly to the internet. Shout out to NC Worker. I see him all over these YouTube streets. Apply the least privilege concept in all to your AWS admin roles. Apply the cloud features to avoid unwanted actions or possible privilege escalation paths inside the account, right? So all the hacks we saw were basically privilege escalation, right? You got a role inside Glue. It was a lower role, then you escalated that up, right? Because you hacked the system into an administration role that control the whole region, right? So we need to set our privileges low enough. But if we're getting privilege escalation, right, we should know the usernames that has those admin roles. If a username gets those extra privileges from a role, right, because remember it added those privileges after, we should get an email that that's happening, right, to the security team, because you shouldn't get a lot of accounts that have full admin roles on your whole region in AWS, right? We should get a email on that, and the security team should follow up and says who gave this person that, and if we don't know who they are and they're not working in the organization, right, we should block that ASAP, right? But we need to put stuff in place to do that, right? Now, this is kind of advanced. Using regex, which is regular expression, it's possible to allow just the characters that would want to that you would want inside your file path and block execution in case an hacker was trying to submit bad characters. An example reported below, we can examine the regex to validate a Linux full path, right? So if people are putting stuff in input places that when you upload them in your website, like you uploading files, you uploading file names, right? Sometimes when you upload those, people are putting stuff in there to trick you, right? So you need to check that, right? So that's regular expression to help you check that. I did one engineering cannabis. I did two. I did two. Now I'm gonna do some more. You're right. I need to do definitely more. But I did two though. Come on, engineering. I did two streams, man. You gotta give me a little love. Shout out to engineering cannabis. Go check him out. Definitely the AI guy I look to, machine learning, robotics. So when I do stuff or I collab, I definitely know he's gonna pop up in these YouTube streets. So I definitely defer to him, on AI, machine learning, and all that. And he always asks great questions. So that made me think of him before he popped up. We need to be using machine learning, artificial intelligence. So when people uploading bad validation, bad files, right? Machine learning, artificial intelligence can help us block that from our website, so we won't get hacked like AWS in here, right? So AWS has all those services, but they're not using them, right? AWS Super Glue got us hacked, right? Because they didn't have artificial intelligence to figure out if somebody was escalating privileges, right? They weren't using machine learning or artificial intelligence to say this user looked fishy, let's block them, right? So those are the stuff, hopefully, as an industry, because AWS is the 800-pound gorilla in the industry. They need to be doing that more than the regular person should be doing that, right? So, once again, want to check that. And as a blue team, I try to validate all input coming into the web server, right? It's called fuzzy, right? So I'm going to try a lot of different malicious input to see if my application is going to catch it and block it or send an email, hopefully, right? So hopefully we're testing a lot of that so that won't be happening to our sites, right, in real time and in real purpose, right? So that's definitely need to correct the polluters. Shout out to that, right? The big boys aren't getting it right, we're going to be struggling, right? So, as part of your infrastructure, I got incident response. What happens when that happens to your infrastructure, right? So, infrastructure domain incident. The infrastructure domain typically includes your application data, network related activities, traffic, your Amazon EC2 instances within the VPC running, an instance operating system, right? So even though we're running on Glue, right? It's running on our EC2, right? It's spinning it up in AWS controller, but it's in our infrastructure, right? So we got to be able to handle that, right? Assume that your monitoring solution notified you of a potential security anomaly in Amazon EC2 instance or the Lambda part. the following actions are common steps to address these issues, right? And we're gonna walk through, like I said, what would I do and what would the company do if we had an issue like that, right? Let's see. Lots of these technology blockchain are not being utilized. Oh, correct. Oh, 100% engineer. Yeah, because I think we're in the infancy of using that. I know blockchain's been out for a while and people tested it and validated, but we were definitely behind on that engineering cannabis 100%. Right? We need to start using them. The crazy thing is AWS got a ton of blockchain technologies. All these technologies being utilized to the fullest, but we're just off facts. I think you're right on both of those, but I think putting those in production and really using them, it always takes us a minute to get going on that engineering cannabis. But I agree 100%. So these are the steps we're going to take. Capture the metadata from it will be the Lambda and the Glue instance before you make any changes to your environment. Protect the Amazon EC2 instance from accidental termination by enable termination protection for the instance. Isolate the Amazon EC2 instance by switching the VPC security group, right? But be aware of the VPC connection tracking other containment techniques. Detach the Amazon EC2 instance from the AWS auto scaling group, right? We don't want to replicate itself, right? While it's in the group communicating with other instances in that scaling group. Deregister the Amazon EC2 instance from any related elastic load balancer services, right? We don't want any more traffic going to our corrupted Lambda and EC2 instance, right? We want to lock it down. Snapshot the Amazon EBS data volumes that are attached to the EC2 instance to preserve, follow up an investigation, right? So we're trying to figure out what happened, right? So we want to kind of wrap everything in a bubble wrap and conserve it in the state it's in, right? Tag the Amazon EC2 instance as quarantine for investigation and add any pertinent metadata such as trouble tickets associated with the investigation, right? So once again, I do a lot of work with the IRS. I do a lot of work with DOD. So sometimes they want to examine what happened to that instance or that particular infrastructure, right? So you got to put it in the state. So when forensic people come, we're going to start a forensic class probably in the end of February, right? So we're going to dig more on that. But you got to get in the state ready for the forensic people to examine it, right? So this is what it's going to look like, right? Here is the data flow diagram of what that saved instance will look like when the investigators come in, right? So Blue Team is responsible for getting it ready for examination. So once again, incident response support. A snapshot of the Amazon EBS volume is a point in time block level copy. The volume run occurs as asynchronous and might take time to complete, but is a delta of the data going forward. You can create a new EBS volume from these copies and mount them to the forensic EC2 instance for deep analysis offline by the forensics investigators. Yeah, so in probably 2-3 weeks, we're gonna kick off the forensics introduction to forensic class. I actually teach that at a local university, so we're gonna dig down in that and just kind of have more of a lecture thing. Then probably by the end of the year, I'll officially spin up labs in the learning management system. But we're just gonna touch on forensics. So if you want to get into that in cybersecurity, this lectures will get you comfortable to kind of figure out what's the entry level that looks like. The following diagram shows a simplified version of the outcome and does not describe all the network components such as subnets, routing tables, and network access and control lists, right? So yeah, for real forensics, we would dump the route table, the network access, what was in memory, right? We would flush all that to disk and get a copy of that, right? And like engineering cannabis, theoretically, you would want to get that on the blockchain because once we flush it, that's it, right? We didn't change it. We can't manipulate it. You can't send the forensic guys messed it up, right? You got it on the blockchain and it's immutable. You can't change it, right? Salute to Before the Billions. Go check him out and watch a couple of his videos. My man getting close to the monetization. I'm a little closer to him, but he got a lot more lives than me now. But go support my young man. I see him out there putting in work. I love to see young guys putting in work, man. he grinding. So I'm never gonna do a 30-hour live. Oh, people need to sleep, but shout out to engineering cannabis. So if we look at it, right, so we got our web um, security group. We have our web EC2 instance, right? The other one in the load balancer was the one that got hacked, right? We could say Web Glue got us in trouble, right? So now we figured that out. We isolated with the purple box. We took it out the security group. We took it out from the VPC, right? So load balancer can't send any more traffic to it. We made a copy of it. See the forensic copy down there, right? So we took it out the auto scaling group. We flushed the memory, we flushed the route table, we flushed that network access control list. Right, it's isolated, so we can't send any more work there, right? Because AWS Glue got us hacked. Somebody escalated their privileges and messed with our EC2 instance. So at the top, that volume was connected to the isolated EC2, right? So we put it in a snapshot and made a copy of it, right? So when forensics come in, we tell them on our network, we got the forensics copy. We did a hash from that to make sure nobody changed it. With the same thing with the snapshot to the copy group. So shout out to Gabe when Mandy come in or Price Waterhouse Cooper comes in or whoever we paid to look at it, we got to set up right for them to come in and do forensic investigation. So what does forensic investigation mean? Right at a high level, what does forensic investigation mean? It means they're going to look in the logs to figure out who hacked us, right? Did it come from a foreign country? Did they come in and jump through a couple of servers? Then from that forensics, right, there's a route table. That route table is going to tell us is did somebody steal that instance and that database connected to the instance and take it to another IP address, take it out the country, right? That's what forensics is going to do, right? Who got in, how they got in, what IP address did they use? Is the EC2 AWS version of storage buckets, or is it a VM? It could be both. Before the billions, when you set up your EC2 instance, you tell if it's a Linux or Windows, right? You can pick what type of version you want that EC2 is. Mine's always going to be Linux because I'm a Linux guy, right? It's going to be a VM, and usually I pick Linux, right? So when you spin up your EC2, you tell it what infrastructure underneath you want it to use, right? So me, I'm always going to use AWS Linux 2. It's a derivative of Red Hat. I'm a stig it, do a whole bunch of security checks so I know the level of it. So in that forensics guy, so for me, it's a VM. It's going to be AWS Linux 2, but you pick when you spinning up those EC2 instances. And we're going to spin up a mock EC2 framework, walk through it on Sunday at 3 in my AWS class. Just check the replay. So we're gonna mock it. I'm gonna do it paper. Then the following week, I'm gonna actually do it live. I get worried when I do live demos. I'm gonna try to set it up live. So we're gonna set up the whole infrastructure with the internet gateway, the uh, the VPC, the instance, the security group, the load balancing. So I'm gonna try to set up a small infrastructure. Right, we're gonna do it on paper this week. Then the following week, we're gonna try to lab it and actually set it up for real. So. Yes, and up. Let me hit them up. Let me hit his questions up. So our first question is it a VM? Okay, Linux. I'm a Linux guy. All my stuff is Linux. Yes, in order for them to do forensics, they would need people to allow proper instant response protocol. Facts. I actually do that for a living, Princess A. So I don't do the forensics part, but I do the incident response part. And I tell people, that they're gonna report to the IRS or DOD and that's coming up. When that happens, who do you report to? We're about to do that in a second. That's an excellent segue, Princess A. I appreciate that. So, well, let's finish this up. So, yeah, but in two, it won't be these two little items, right? In a real structure, right? I'm gonna need a database. I'm gonna need a web server, an app server, a database, right? And two is all those other components like that and show the subnets, the routing table, the network access. So it's probably going to be about 10 things that's going to be in the forensic statement that come in, right? The application, the web server, the database. Usually there's multiple application web server on a subnet. So usually when you get hacked, it goes to 2 or 3 of those and move data around and try to confuse you. So you're gonna need all those in forensic sec. So you're gonna need usually have about 10 items. And two is we never move anything straight from the database layer out. We usually put that on a SFTP server, then push it out, right? So that's gonna need to be quarantined. So it's not gonna be just this one or two items. You're gonna have like 10 items. So, but we get a little more than that. That's just a high level. Let's see what Snuggles got. Is the cell phone made with the same software as computers? Yes. Especially Apple is just a stripped down version of Linux called Delvac. So yes, it's based on the same systems. Do cell phone use the same computer? No, it's based. Apple's just a stripped down version of Linux. I'll let B2B chime in on that, see what his thoughts on. But yeah, they're just stripped down versions of the regular operating system. And I know Sony's just a stripped down version of that too. They all use Linux and, like I said, a stripped down version of that. Now we talk about breach notification. I'm in Indiana, so we'll talk about that. A lot of states, when you get hacked, and it's more than, I think Indiana was 500, you have to let the state of Indiana, Cali, whatever, because they want their citizens, constituents to know that they've been hacked. So you got to notify their state so they can notify those individuals that they've been breached, right? So a lot of people forget a lot of states have breach notifications. So ours is Indiana Code Artifact 24-49. Indiana General Attorney committed to enforcing disclosure of security breach laws to protect Hoosiers for identity theft. The law requires Indiana businesses to inform customers about security breaches that place their personal information in jeopardy. The office can seek up to $150,000 for data breaches that have not been properly disclosed to Indiana customers, right? And Cali's got it. I know New York's got it. I know Boston had these. So if you're doing cybersecurity, you need to check your local state laws. If you got breached, what does that notification looks like, right? I think a lot of people forget that. Security breaches involving your personal information refers to data breaches. You can create a significant risk of fraud or identity theft if information is acquired by the wrong person. The following guide informs you the risk involved and the measures you take if you're affected by a security breach, right? I think I have another slide. So with the affected customers following the discovery of the breach, this disclosure must be made without unreasonable delay and must be provided to the affected person by one of the following methods: mail, telephone, fax, mail, electronic. Consumer reporting agents if more than 1,000 Indiana residents are to be notified, right? So if your breach is 1,000 or more people, you got to let the attorney general know in the state. And I know at least half the states have their own breach notification rule, right? So it tells you who to send it to, who to call, and like I said, follow up with that. Like I said, I do this in real life. So make sure if you're starting a business and you got more than 1,000, because if you get hacked and they found out it was you, the minimum they starting off with is 150, right? And if you do something they really don't like, you can easily get fined up to $1 million, right? If you're a small company with millions of dollars, $1 million fine with no cybersecurity, it's over for you, right? We're shutting you down, right? So we just want to make sure who we notifying gets notified, right? So why is it in? So what's so important about Linux? Why is everything seem to copy that system or other systems inferior? I don't say it was inferior. I think Linux was built more with security on top of it, and really it's just a version of Unix. So it's really Unix and Linux. I believe it's the fastest and the most secure, right? I think Windows is easier to learn. A lot of people love it because it's easier to get set up. But Linux is a little harder to learn because a lot of it's command line. But for me, because I'm old and grumpy, Snuggles, I like Linux. I think it's the best and I think it's the most secure. But that's my 2 cents, right? I've been doing this a long time. I'm kind of a Linux bigot. So, and other people have their different flavor of systems they like, Snuggles. Like I said, for me, I've been in the game a long time and I understand it. And inside and out, and I got about 40 people I could call that understand it ins and out. Shout out to Keep It Techie. He's on that list I could call if I get snuggled. So for me, it's just a preference. Like I said, I'm a Linux bigot, so I always push it out the front. So I just want to be transparent, Snuggles. So once again, it's IRS season. I do a lot of IRS work, so let's just talk about from breach notification what the IRS is talking about. When an unauthorized disclosure of data breach, agency must not wait to conduct an internal investigation to determine if federal tax information (FTI) was involved. Right? If the IRS, if they don't want you to figure out if you breach, if it looks funny, they want you to know. See in the red immediately, but no later than 24 hours after identifying a possible issue involving federal tax information. Right? They don't want you to know if you've been hacked. If something looks funny in 24 hours, they want to know, right? So you need to know that, because if they find out you didn't let them know in the 24 hours, you can get a big boy fine, right? The instant response policy acquired in publication 1075 9.3.8. Instant response must follow when reporting to identify unauthorized disclosure or a data breach. The Office of Safeguard will coordinate with the agency regarding appropriate follow-up actions required to take by the agency to continue protection of FTI, which is federal tax information, right? So since it's tax season, right, but they don't want you to know if you've been hacked. If something looks funny, the IRS wants to know, right? I always thought that was interesting. So from a reporting agency, you need to know that, right? So I think that was it. Wrapping up for that. Like I said, once again, don't let AWS get you in trouble. The Glue and the Lambda has privilege escalations all over it. They're reporting. So I did the last slides because if you got a report that AWS got your data leaked or breached, right? Check on your state. Who are you reporting to federally? Figure out the timing you need to get that done, right? You need to do that ahead of time too, right? So I just wanted to touch a little bit of that. I know AWS is the 800-pound gorilla. I still a big AWS fan. Just some of those service managed by AWS, you might want to pump your brakes a little bit. And some of that stuff you might want to control yourself, right? Because if AWS gets hacked, your whole region's hacked. Where if it's something you control and it gets hacked, right, the AWS part is still okay, right? It's a shared responsibility of security between us and them, right? So let me know if you got any other questions. I just read that, and I always knew that, right? AWS is they like everybody else. They're better than everybody else, but they just have issues. I dropped the link at the bottom if you want to hook on it, but that's how I wanted to go. AWS is not the end all be all. Azure is not the end all be all. You're still responsible for those cloud servers because you picked them, right? Right. So you got to make sure as agency or a company, you're responsible for what those big cloud vendors get you in trouble with because you picked them. You're supposed to be doing risk assessment of those cloud vendors to make sure the services you use, right, work, and you're responsible for if they get hacked or not. Right. So once again, I dropped the link, or if you want to throw any questions in there, that's all I got today. I appreciate the support. I'm so super close to monetization, so I'm just gonna continue to do what I do. I enjoy it, and too, it helps me stay on top of my game. We were talking about ageism, and part of ageism is you got to do your part to make sure you stay up on technology, right? To make sure you're still of value to whatever team you're working on, right? So once again, just put any questions in the chat or come up if you want to chat. I'm waiting on Snuggles. Shout out to Snuggles. I dropped the link. Let's see if she comes up. I've not heard it. I think if she's ever going to come up, it's going to be on like Bernard Riley's show. My little 5 or 6 that I got on live today. That's not a for Snuggles to come out a lot. She need to be on Bernard Riley show with like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people in the box, man. She can't come out on a little Professor Black Ops show, man. My feelings I heard she need to come out on a big YouTuber show, man. Shout out to Snuggles. But yeah, once again, too, if you want me to do a stream on something in cybersecurity, just drop it. I like doing research on it. I research a lot of stuff. I probably start doing a few Azure videos. I feel like I'm not putting respect on Microsoft's name. Shout out to Azure. I think I need to give them a little love, even though I'm studying for my AWS practitioner test. Shout out to Dewan. He said he got it in 2 weeks. I'm old. I don't remember. I don't memorize good like I used to. I'm getting old, Snuggles. I don't memorize stuff like I used to. So shout out to Dewan. So, but that's all I got. One-on-one with Bernard Riley, and I will see what am I gonna do a one-on-one with Bernard Riley about. I don't disagree with. I'm not gonna say that he does the manosphere stuff. I don't do relationships and all that. I got respect for that young guy. I mean, I disagree on a few little minor tidbits, but if I come up, I'm gonna say, hey, get into cybersecurity, get in IT, get the bag, go to Black Heights, go to B2B, go to Destination DAG, go to textual chatter. There's so many guys in IT in there. Master IT. That's what I'm gonna tell them, Snuggles. I don't. I would love to go on. I would love to do a one-on-one with Bernard Riley to get a little publicity for my channel, Snuggles. That's about it. Shout out to those young guys, man. They all in the game. I'm just gonna say it like that. I'm focusing on IT and getting the bad, Snuggles, and cybersecurity. That's all I got for the game. That's all I got. It has to be technology. I want to talk about the field that you're in. We can do that, Snuggles, anytime you want to come up. And I send Bernard Riley a shout out. But so yeah, you need to come out on Bernard Riley's show, Snuggles. So it'll be 1,000 people. Everybody's trying to figure out who you are. I told myself I was giving up pop in 2022. I am failing miserably in my pop and my diet. So, but we got to keep going, team. 2022, new year, new us. Shout out for Miss Nash for coming. Shout out, yeah, I see Snuggle. I'm gonna shut it on down for today. I'm sure I'm gonna see on your news 2 streets. Come check out my Sunday at 3 p.m. Like I said, we're going on AWS. We're gonna talk a little bit more about putting the VPC together from a federal compliance standpoint. We're actually going to do we call it a tabletop paper walkthrough. Then the following week, I'm going to try to build it for real. Then we're going to see how I look like. Then, because I've been talking about it. So I'm getting my paperwork together so me and Gabe can do a tabletop of red team, blue team test. We're going to do it in paper, then we're going to do it for real. So we do a tabletop of me getting my VPC together. So shout out to me. But I'm done. Shout out to Snuggles. Shout out to Miss Nash. Like I said, I don't want Snuggles to come out on my channel. My channel too little for Snuggles to come out on. She need to come out on Bernard. Right? I'm trying to see teapots. I'm trying to think people with thousands of users out there. That's in that manosphere. I would say Tasha K, but I'm gonna leave that one alone. Po Tasha K. She need to come out on a big YouTubers. When is the next estate planning? I don't know. She did the whole. I thought it was gonna be a 2-day estate planning. She did it all in 1 day. So I think we're gonna do mass surveillance from a legal standpoint. What does it look like technology wise, but legally? So I think the next thing we probably gonna do is mass surveillance. But I'll get with her because I think we need to kind of stay on stuff to help your legacy and protect your wealth. I really enjoyed that chat with her. Like I said, we've been friends forever. So that's my personal lawyer. I try to sue everybody. she always tells me to calm down. I want to sue everybody because she don't charge me. Shout out to me. Nah, but I'm gonna sue Snuggles. No, I'm just playing. But nah, so I'm done. Like I said, I appreciate it for everybody coming out something short. Make sure AWS don't get you breached so you won't be have to report to your local state general attorney. So I'm out. And so yeah, master surveillance. We've been talking about that off and on for years. Ring doorbell, and all those doorbells are part of mass surveillance. People just don't know about it. But once again, I'm out. I appreciate it. I'm gonna see you on these YouTube streets. Uh, like I said, check out my man B2B. Them 30-hour live streams. I'm super impressed. I'm just never gonna do one, but shout out to him. I always try to support him. Watch him do his thing. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting Snuggles should come out on it. Oh, I'm getting TLA. My lawyer versus TLA. I'm a sue Snuggles. We need to know her identity. She's gonna have TLA represent her. TLA is expensive, Snuggles. You better have B2B. You're gonna have B2B get you a discount, Snuggles. TLA ain't cheap. He getting that YouTube money, Snuggles. You you gonna have to save up a little bit. Shout out to Snuggles. She gonna get TLA. I'm done, y'all. Like I said, happy Thursday. I can almost see the weekend, but I sure need that. As my mom used to say, I sure need that Friday to hurry up and get here. I sure need it. Shout out to y'all. Like I said, if you got any questions for me, just my email is professorblackops@gmail.com. Once again, I appreciate every one of you supporting me. Like I said, I'm close to the monetization. I need me a steak, even though I'm supposed to be eating better. So I appreciate everybody. I'm going to see you in these new YouTube streets. I'm out.